For centuries, humanity has looked to the heavens and wondered what secrets they held, could pass through the gloom between them. We have located and mapped planets, comets, as well as catalogued numerous asteroids, which believe that the Sun system was a closed community in which everything complied with established guidelines. However, the universe occasionally sends an indication that we are not the only participants on this stage. James Webb, the Space Telescope, designed to look back in, capture the first light of tax. At the right time, galaxies that formed. After the Big Bang, it then focused on something completely different, but close, alien, and quick. Astronomers refer to it as 3 Atlas, a traveler between stars moving at such a rapid and precise pace that natural causes cannot account for it by itself. It was initially thought to be nothing more than a fragment of rock expelled for a long time from a distant star system ago, but then a lot of strange things started happening. Its surface and orbit are both too precise, reflective, as well as its movements deliberate. Now, with the tools of the Webb capturing the clearest picture ever taken of this mysterious visitor, the unpleasant truth is coming to light. 3. Atlas may not be an asteroid or comet at all. It could be a machine made by hands or an object that is much older and more superior to our own. And assuming if that's the case, then its arrival is not just a discovery. It conveys a message. When 3 Atlas was initially discovered on July 1st by Atlas, which was funded by NASA's survey, it seemed to be nothing more than a small spot on the velvet blackness in space. However, within days, astronomers discovered that it was extraordinary. We measured its speed at over 133,000 miles per hour, which is faster than nearly anything that we have ever followed. Even more alarming was that it was unrelated to the Sun's gravitational pull in the way most natural bodies are. Its equator was exaggerated, indicating that it had originated in space between stars and would theoretically leave once more. That alone made it one of the most uncommon items ever discovered. Only humanity's 3rd interstellar visitor ever confirmed, following Oumuamua and Borisov. However, unlike them, its course was precise enough to be unsettling. It aligned to sweep close to the orbits of Mars and Jupiter before slingshotting around the Sun. It's precisely timed so that Earth would be on the other side of it, as it came as close as it could. For some, according to scientists, this was a fluke. To others, it was perceived as avoidance. Webb's first glimpses of 3 Atlas confirmed what many people feared. The surface of it was geometric, reflective, and smooth in ways that didn't come from nature. Instead of crashing through the chaos space, it moved in a steady rhythm as it turned, as if they were held in place by an internal mechanism. Natural objects cannot travel such as this. Machines do. Soon as the James Webb Telescope detected, scientists anticipated that 3 Atlas would look for the usual jagged irregularities of a slushy rock. However, the Webb's powerful instruments demonstrated something that shattered expectation. The object's surface reflected light that sparkles like polished metal with a brightness that is unnatural. That ice from comets could produce. Although it was small, its reflectivity made it appear to be larger, as if made for standing out rather than concealing. Even more troubling, Webb observed a faint but consistent thermal trace all over its surface. These were not the jumbled odors of releasing gases and dust, but measured heat pulses released in intervals that were so precise they resembled code. Nature does not transmit messages. Nonetheless, this was an interstellar body with patterns of radiation that suggested intent. The settling of its spin, the steadfastness of its orientation, how it controlled how much heat it took in, all resembled technology, not geology. Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist who argued previously that Oumuamua might have been fabricated, emphasized these details as the most compelling evidence to date that engineered design may be present. Look for things that don't move, he issued a warning. And sure enough, the Webb picked up small but deliberate alterations to the course. shifts in trajectory that cannot be caused by sunlight or random outgassing. Within 3 Atlas, something was directing it. Something even happened as the data came in. Strange things started to appear. Analysts taking a look at the infrared signatures noticed that the 3 Atlas pulses were not created at random. They carried on sequences. The prime numbers came first, then ratios, then patterns of Fibonacci strangely close to pi. They aren't physics-related accidents. They are distinctive of interaction. In the pursuit of intelligence from outer space, long ago, scientists argued that the universal language is mathematics, the only means of demonstrating intelligence across the heavens. And now it was written here, not through radio waves, but through heat. A deliberately subtle signal encoded in exactly how the object gave off energy. Some people thought it was directed at us, awaiting our attention. Others worried it was not at all for us, but rather for another, a distant receiver beyond our control. Space, governments, and agencies, which previously shared data openly, suddenly stopped talking. Logs of observations, databases frozen, and the system went offline behind closed doors. Updates were locked. Journalists looking for answers came across only reports with redactions and cryptic statements. Theories arose in the silence, propagated rapidly. Was 3 Atlas interacting with the Earth? Or was Earth merely listening in on a conversation never intended for us? With each new discovery comes the likelihood that 3 Atlas's artificial strengthens. The heat safeguarding, its stable spin, and even the tiniest of encoded signals. Webb-enabled electromagnetic bursts, all of them point to design and not chance. If it is a probe, it means that someone is out there developing machines capable of traversing space between stars. Machines that could have been launched thousands or even a few thousand years ago. Also, if it is a machine, then it is in this location with a purpose. Some scientists contend that it may be a planet-listing surveyor of civilizations as part of a much larger interstellar system. Others suggest it could be a historical object or relic, still completing a task long after its creators have passed away. The most terrifying idea is that it acts as a watchdog, deliberately timed to become apparent right now that technology exists for humanity to detect and investigate it. It's quiet. It's Earth avoidance. Strange but distinctive patterns. Everything feels more like a test than a coincidence. A challenge not to our science, but to our preparedness. Since 3 Atlas is observing us, it might not be here to communicate in any way. It might just be here to determine the next step. Researchers continued to follow 3 Atlas. One aspect became harder to dismiss. It appeared to be traveling meticulously mapped so as to avoid Earth, when plotted in contrast to the orbits of the planets. The path the object took appeared too flawless, avoiding the gravitational fields of Jupiter and Mars, but steering millions of miles across our planet's surface. Initially, this was dismissed as coincidence, the inevitable outcome of a random hyperbolic orbit. However, statistical models displayed something completely bizarre. The likelihood of such a flawless, naturally occurring avoidance was extremely small. This wasn't the chaotic wandering fragment of a comet. It was accurate. Among some, this avoiding behavior suggested prudence. As if 3 Atlas had the intention of keeping its distance, looking out the window without direct participation. Others saw it as hints of strategy, a sophisticated probe ensuring that it could observe us without being discovered too quickly. In that case, the troubling query arises. How many similar events have gone unnoticed through our solar system before? Webb's high-resolution thermal scans revealed an additional anomaly, posed to natural bodies that move freely and show all sides exposed to the heat of the sun. 3 Atlas nearly always stayed on one side, pointing in the direction of the star as if with a shield on it. That side displayed abnormal reflectivity and rebounded solar energy much more effectively over the remainder of the object. This led to the potential for deliberate engineering, a surface that resists heat, possibly, comparable to the thermal safeguards that are utilized by spacecraft. However, this shielding far exceeded our capabilities, standing up to not only solar radiation, but also controlling astonishingly high levels of internal heat. Some researchers suggested that it might serve as a sail, capturing sunlight energy, for moving while safeguarding sensitive equipment inside. Others speculated that it might be a cloaking mechanism intended to conceal its true nature by merely presenting a reflective surface for viewing. The existence of, no matter what its function, the significance of such a shield was undeniable fact. 3 Atlas was designed to last, not for a few hours or days, but for eons of travel across galaxies. The more researchers looked at the Webb data, the less certain they realized 3 Atlas was all by itself. In a few anomalies appeared. Backdrop. For the images, gloomy recollections, tiny distortions, possibly of smaller travelers following in its wake. These may have been camera noise, but in opposition, some analysts argued cross-checks using telescopes on the ground uncovered hints of additional objects, smaller and weaker, but still following the same trajectory. Is 3 Atlas a component of a swarm along with other unidentified visitors from other galaxies believed to be? If this is the case, then the image was more than just capturing a single traveler, but the forefront of something more substantial, like a caravan of probes, or fragments crafted with deliberate intent to spread out and collect data. The researchers were shaken by the possibility. If this was only one of many, then what we are seeing is not a singular event, but a single node in a network that spans the stars. Initial reports of 3 Atlas spread rapidly, with NASA, ESA, and other observatories freely sharing updates. However, as Webb images became clearer and the anomalies more difficult to explain, the openness began to decrease. Only once suddenly available to the public required approval. The rumors were redacted. Several observatories asserted difficulties with technology, while others just remained silent. Pressuring journalists for responses received hazy statements regarding ongoing research and the need to steer clear of hasty speculation. However, beneath this silence, information fragments that had leaked began to surface, implying that 3 Atlas's actions were too calculated to dismiss and that the agencies knew much more than they would admit. Elon Musk himself voiced his opinions on social media, implying that the image Webb had taken was the most obvious indication yet that we are not alone. Whether his statements were based on speculation or privileged knowledge is still unknown. One thing is evident: 3 Atlas has necessitated institutions to choose secrecy over transparency, and their silence may be as powerful as anything else. 3 Atlas was meant to be a passing interest, another rock from the empty space that runs through our system before completely disappearing. However, we have seen with the James Webb Space Telescope otherwise. Its shield of reflection, its precise course, its baffling pulses of heat, and its potential partners, all of it does not point to randomness, but rather intention. Intention also refers to design. If this is a machine, it must be located beyond our sun's horizon. There are makers, people who already know the capacity to travel between stars. What they want and why they've chosen this moment now remains the greatest remaining mystery. They may be evaluating, observing, awaiting the next step taken by humanity, in advance of revealing themselves. Or perhaps they do not care about us at all, and we're just listening in on a task far more extensive than our imagination can comprehend. The absence of agencies, the data's encoded signals, the object's refusal to approach Earth, everything feels like a test. And the reality is that we might not be the ones deciding what will happen. The cosmos has sent us a message, and we can accept or reject it. Whether we like it or not, it is no longer a question as to whether we are alone. The sole remaining question is, what happens when the silence finally ends? If you'd like to monitor each Webb image and update, and every tidbit about 3 Atlas, subscribe, share, and turn on this video's alerts in anticipation of the next glimpse that could alter humanity's history forever.